Well, we're at 9:01, so let's kick this thing off. Welcome to the postponed 2022 Leadership Academy. Thanks for coming. We've got a lot of good stuff today. I'm Scott Anderson. I'm the recently former Vice President of Chapter Support and Leadership Training. So Leadership Academy has been my job, but starting a few days ago, that job is now belongs to Bruce Sell now. And Bruce is joining us from a McDonald's in California where he had to go at kind of the last minute. But I'm going to turn some time over to him to introduce himself and give us some ground rules.
Wait, he had to go to McDonald's at the last minute?
Yes.
Or California?
You'll see why. You'll see why, John.
Both. Yeah, good morning, everybody. Thanks for being on here. Tony, real quick, something we didn't cover earlier. Can you look in the settings for something called entry and exit tones and see if we can turn off that little doorbell as every time someone comes and goes from the meeting. So that'd be great. Thanks, everybody. My name is Bruce Selnow. I'm sure when you were at the convention in October and Tony got up and introduced his team and they said, your new chapter support leadership training, Bruce Selnow. And you went, who? That's okay. New to Colorado, but not new to barbershop. I started back in 1995 out in the far Western District. I've had a flurry of roles out there, including a director of a couple choruses. I sang with the Voices in Harmony under Greg Line when we went to Nashville in 2008 and got a third place bronze. So I'm pretty proud of that experience. Done a lot of quartetting. So, and extensive work with Youth in Harmony out in the far Western District, including the high school quartet contest that I was in charge of out there, and also our Youth Harmony Camp, where I still continue as one of the directors every year in Sly Park. So a lot of experience there. More about me at some other time when we can sit down and sing a tag or something. But today is about Leadership Academy. And when we talk about my new role, right, chapter support and leadership training, those two things are really tied closely together. How can we support the chapter the best way possible? And that is by training up our leaders that are running the chapter. We talk about recruitment, we talk about retention, but at the end of the day, what is it that our members really strive for? What do we need when we say we're going to fill their cup? And you could say a contest, you could say a convention, you could say your show, but how often during the year do those things occur, right? Couple contests a year, couple shows per year. What's really at the core is that experience our members have every week when they come to that chapter meeting. And so that's what we talk about. It's the whole philosophy. It's not new. If you build it, they will come, right? And what's that experience that member has every week when they leave your chapter meeting? Do they go home saying, man, that was a blast. I really loved that. Can't wait to come back next week. That's where we'll find new members. That's where we'll retain members, right? So we don't need a magic membership plan. We don't need a magic recruitment poster and campaign. We just need to make sure we're taking care of our members. And if we take care of our members, they'll go get more members, right? So where does that go? That goes to leadership. And leadership's job is to take care of the customer. Customer's not the audience member in the seat that bought the ticket. The customer's our member and that guy who's coming every week. So how can we best serve that customer every week with a chapter meeting that is fulfilling, right? It takes a spark plug. Every chapter should have one at least, if not a few. And it's no accident that you're on this call today. And you may be new to being a board member or a leader in your chapter, or you may be a seasoned veteran with a lot of years under your belt, and we appreciate you for that. But that spark plug, if you don't think your chapter has a spark plug, maybe that's why you're here today. So we've got a wonderful team of people here that are going to be part of this call today to help you in determining if you are that spark plug, how do you get started? What do you do? Fortunately, we've got an expert on our staff for the call today. Her name is Beverly Greene, and she is with the Barbershop Harmony Society as a certified leadership facilitator. Now, a little inside track for those of you that recognize that last name, you might recall something a few years back called Compellingly Attractive Chapter Meetings, CACM. That was Chuck Greene. That was Beverly's husband that did those courses. And she was right there with him developing that content and sharing that content across the US as the Barbershop Harmony Society embraced the concept. So again, what does that fall back to? The chapter meeting, right? It's the core of what we do. So without further ado, I will turn the floor over to Beverly. Oh, a couple quick housekeeping items. We're sounding good right now. Let's make sure everybody's lines are muted. You've done these Zoom calls the past 2 years. We all know how to do this now. Make sure you have the chat box open, because we will prefer that you put in the chat box when you have questions. And if you have a lengthy question, just say, I have a question. And when we get to Q&A, we'll call on you, and then you can unmute and just ask your question verbally. So if it's a quick question, you can just put it in the chat. But otherwise, let's just focus on what Beverly's sharing with us today. Beverly?
Thank you, Bruce. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for getting up early to be here. It's 10:30 in Asheville, North Carolina. So I've been up a while and had a lot of coffee. So I've been a certified leadership facilitator since 2016 when they first rolled out the program. And I've been in barbershop in one way or another for 30 years because I went to work for Chuck 30 years ago. So being a designer when he did all the printing for the course brought me right in from the very beginning. So until that point, I had no idea what barbershop was. And boy, has my life changed. So thank you all for being here. All the questions will go through the chat, and Bruce is going to take care of that, making sure that he can interrupt me at any time if there's something really important we need to interrupt with. My screens are kind of wonky today, so I won't even be seeing the chat. So make sure that if you do have something, ask Bruce, he'll interrupt, I can see him. And there's 3 presentations today, all on leadership, all on your chapters. When Bruce mentioned recruitment and retention, just as an aside, so I don't forget, there's a place in the middle of that called orientation. And you can recruit and you want to retain them at the end of the first year. You want them to renew. That orientation time in the middle is everything a new member will experience, mostly chapter meetings. And it's also, don't forget how important that time is. And that's the only thing I'm going to say about this, but that time in between I became a member, don't forget that everything that happens after that is excruciatingly important. That's what your chapter meetings are about. So along this leadership role, you're going to see a lot of, as I go through the slides today, a lot of this, some of it, maybe half of it comes out of the prepared slides that came from the leadership facilitator courses. An awful lot of it is experience. Some of it you'll notice from CACM, you may recognize a few things. An awful lot of it is experience of singing, of being in a chorus, where the director was the be all end all, of being on the board of the district and also our local chapter board, and finding out how things are done. So I've been behind the scenes, I've been in a course. So let's get started. And let's get started from the beginning. Finding, encouraging, and empowering leaders. This is the first module we're going to do. We want to look at, the brief was how to set up our own game as a chapter leader. We're looking for the next great leader. So what we want to do is make sure that in the process of having a really engaging course meeting and any kind of interaction with the public, that we always remember that people are paying attention to us. and what role we represent. So with that said, whenever you're in a participatory organization, a volunteer organization, these are who you might be: leaders, managers of activities, committed workers, single task helpers, value receivers, loyal, but not so active, in for appearances and expectations, or dropouts. All these levels of participation are available to you when you walk in the door or you sign up to join, even before you join. This is what you're going to see. This is what you need to be aware of is you have members or old members or possibly new members coming in that may find themselves in any of these. We want them to be committed workers, at least single task helpers, absolutely value receivers, and work their way up the channel. I will say that my philosophy is everyone in the organization can lead something. Everyone in the organization is there for a reason that's probably a little more than getting out on a rehearsal night. It at least includes liking to sing. So what motivates us? Survival, biological drive to continue living, rewards and punishments. You do things to get rewards. Now, in this case, our rewards are time to sing, get better, learn things, meet new people, all those things where if I ask you, why is barbershop important to you? Those are your rewards. The intrinsic motivators that we're going to cover, and I just want to cover because I want you to be aware of them, not because this is the things you have to remember, but I just want to get this whole thing pulled together so you know deep inside what motivates people, and then we'll get down to a lot of the practical applications. The first motivation for is autonomy, an internal desire to direct and control our own lives, be self-directed and independent, the freedom to make decisions and choices, have fun and fellowship working towards a common goal. All of us have an autonomy for motivation. Everybody's is balanced a little differently, but if we show up on a rehearsal night, this plays into it because I'm there. I've given my time and commitment. So the next thing is mastery, the intrinsic desire to extend and expand our skills and abilities, the challenge of learning something new and interesting, making meaningful new contacts with people, to be creative and conceptual and increase our knowledge. So we've all got that in us. We all have some kind of motivation of mastery on a topic, be it watercolor painting, possibly being able to shovel the driveway a little more quickly because you learn some new ways to do it. So it doesn't matter what the topic is. So our purpose, intrinsic desire to leave a life of purpose, to accomplish something that endures, to serve a larger mission, give back to society, undertake projects that have meanings, do something beyond ourselves to improve our situations. Those are large scale purposes. Again, your purpose may be to get out of the house one night a week, to share your lives with just, do any of the courses have mixed courses, or are you all male out in RMD?
There's mixed, several.
They're mixed, okay. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that I didn't say something inappropriate. If I do, you can call me on it. So how does this make my rehearsal nights more enjoyable? Because I'm just here for the singing, okay? There's many members you can point to in your course that may feel this way because they don't understand there's opportunities for them, or perhaps they think they are just there for the singing. Okay, so the personal benefits of this autonomy, mastery, and purpose. It creates activation energy for living with satisfaction, burnishes and builds reputation, sharpens your skills, enhances earning power, enhances leadership ability, connects us to a bigger world, opens up new opportunities and experiences. So in the background, always remember that we're there. There's always reasons going on in the background for what we do. So again, how does this make my rehearsal nights more enjoyable? Why do I come? Why do I bother? My involvement increases the feeling of belonging and buy-in. So the more I'm involved, the more I feel that the course needs me, that they'd be one person down without me, they would be lost without me. I have special skills that they need. And this is beyond my voice. I really want to stress that We are all here because we're singing, and you all join the chorus for a lot of different reasons. But when you get there at a rehearsal night, I want to make sure that people understand, and every member understands, you're not just there to stand on the risers and sing your part correctly and perform your part, not just sing it, not just notes of words, but perform. It's more than that. And we want to make sure that everybody in the chorus in your chapter understands that you are more than that lead part, that tenor part at that moment in that song. Our whole world is so much bigger than that in barbershop. My involvement in the chapter life increases my desire to be there at every rehearsal and not miss anything, because there's interesting things going on. There's learning going on. There's people that I may not have seen that show up. My desire to help improve our personal experiences. I want to make it better. I want to make sure that it's the best it can be for that night, given the circumstances. Ensuring mine and others' experiences the best it can be. Creative ideas for activities. I may have something from my past that I want to share. A lot of us have been on other courses. A lot of us have lived in other places. A lot of us have been in other organizations that may have things we want to try. There's a possibility of even more involvement. When you join a course or chapter, you may join specifically because you want to sing, or specifically because you want it to run better than it is. I myself am not in it just for the singing. If the culture and the leadership involved in the chapter is not good enough, I have a hard time, because it's very important to me. It's very important to a lot of people that have been in the business world, that they're not in a place where they're being told what to do and not given options to share. You know, our whole culture now is, especially now that we've been working at home, is understanding that our managers, our bosses, our leaders value our opinions and value what we do. And if you go into a rehearsal night and all you're doing is standing on the riser singing, you don't get that feeling of, I am valued, I am worthy, I have something to share, I have something to do. So a lot of this whole thing about leadership is understanding that your director is a paid employee most of the time. They are not in charge of everything. Your board of directors is a board of leaders picked to be in charge to make sure that certain things get done, but they don't make all the decisions either. A lot of leadership is, especially in barbershop, understanding that everybody has a voice, everybody has an opinion. And without the ability for us to share that with our board of directors and maybe influence the way things are done, that it's not as much fun for us. If you are there and all you want to do is sing, we hope you at least help pick up the risers or share the music or something. We'll find something for you to do, because it's not about just being on the riser singing. If you have a member that's coming in, all they're doing is hiding in a corner, possibly with a quartet, getting on the riser singing and going home, there's not a target, but there's a person where you need to bring out a little bit and bring them into the forefront, at least make them belong to a little bigger organization than that. So first, we want to make frequent opportunities for individuals to shine. You're not there to be in the corner. You might think you are, but you're really not. You want to recognize all your members for the person they are, the voice part they have, and their ideas. You want to encourage them for input, ideas, and further suggestions. You want to use them and their ideas as an example. So if somebody comes to you and they have an idea, make sure, maybe not that moment, because that moment may be in the middle of something and a time schedule where you can't get out, but make sure that that idea is written down and taken to whatever we're going to create to explore ideas. Make it easy, painless, and not embarrassing. It's always an idea to look into, even if it's something you've already tried and decided that's not for you. They don't need to know that. Don't embarrass them. Ask them why they have the idea. What is it that made them want that? What idea is it that they want to explore, and what benefit they think will come from it? Allow as time permits, when this is first exposed, the idea. some Q&A between the person and whoever it is they're speaking to. Keep it non-threatening. Usually in the beginning, before your culture is open enough to understand that this is part of your culture, this may be a one-on-one. Why don't you guys do this? In my old chapter, we used to do this. Going up to the VP of music, who has a laundry list of jobs that would fill 10 pages in a book. Actually, I think it's bigger than 10 pages. You know, why don't we do this? Or did you ever think about doing that? In the beginning, you're going to get a lot of that. And part of this, what I'm doing today, is to allow you to better manage all that. So after we do all that, we need to, and this is once you've pegged someone, and we're going to go back and forth in this idea of how to do this and what order to do it in. But after you find someone that has an idea, what you're going to do, because they've approached you, obviously they want more. You're going to find opportunities to have them lead an effort with their idea. We're going to go back to that. We're going to assign a primary contact for them for this idea. It might be a music idea. It might be a social activity idea. It might be a performance idea. So there's going to be some person who will be the best person in leadership to deal with. You will keep in touch to see how it's going. And anyone who's in this position, it may be anyone in the chapter. Your chapter has to be aware of the fact that at any time, a member may be approached by someone else saying, hey, I've got this idea. They might not be talking to a board member. So the openness of your chapter to make board members available and open to new ideas is critical. If it's something, once you get to the point where it's an idea you want to pursue, how you want to pursue it, ask them to sit in a board meeting to present their idea. You may work with them ahead of time to hone the idea a little bit. Before you ask anybody to be at a board meeting, your board maybe need to be prepped to be ready for visitors. You want to prep this person to expect opposition or discussion. You want to include them, encourage them to explore what's next, and always have somebody available for conversation. Asking a member to sit in on a board meeting is no big deal for some, and it's a huge deal for others. Depending on your chapter, your board may be this holy group of people that meet once a month and make all kinds of decisions and then come back and tell you what's happening. That is a model. If you have a huge board and you're a very successful chapter, I congratulate you for getting that done, but there's more to it than that. So when you find somebody that wants to do something, there's steps of delegation. To lead well, you need to do all the steps of delegation. And once you've selected a task, and we're going to go, this is a little backwards because this is the order that the presentations were. So we're going to bump around again. You're going to have a delegation conversation. And this is probably where most things go wrong. The responsibility, the duty to be done includes the desired results and explanation of its importance. Reporting inquiry. If somebody says, I want to do this, then the first thing is they're taking responsible for doing it. The second thing is they have to know whether they're allowed to run with it. They need to get board permission. They need to get funding. They need to know how far they can go with it. They need to know time guidelines. They need to know who else is involved. Any volunteer to do something, even if it's bring out the risers and set them up at a meeting, that's great. There's probably somebody doing that already. They need to know, they need to be sure they know who that is and what the conditions are. Even with something that simple, there's conditions. Like we start setting up at 10 till. Are you going to be on the breakdown committee? Or is that a different set of people? All kinds of ideas have boundaries. They're not big deals in some cases, they're big deals in others. They have to be able to access relevant information. If they want to go off and start soliciting for money, they need to know all the information you have about what you do when you solicit. You need to know if additional training or skills are required for the job they want to do, for something that they want, and they want to run with soliciting. There's some training involved. It is not just a, hey, go out and ask for money, hopefully. Resources. So what resources do they need for this task that they've now volunteered for, or come up with an idea for? So budget, technical expertise, tools and experience, and support. How will you support them through the process and give them feedback? What we don't want to do is throw somebody at a job and say, oh, he decided he wanted to do that, go for it. When you're done, let us know. So many projects at that point die because they don't have feedback. They don't know who to talk to when they get stuck. They don't know where to go. So the level of authority, they can act when directed, go for it. Get back to me when you're done. It could be something very simple as putting together your visitors' books. You know you have access to the music, you have a copier at home, you have a bunch of binders in your garage, you're going to put them together, go for it, let us know when you're done. The second thing would be, I need to get approval for that. We'd love to do that. We want to make sure that there's a certain order to the booklets, and then you have our approval. It might need to go to the board first to make sure that what it is you want to do, which might be set up a sing out on a Saturday, that is something that the board has a time slot for, or has rules about, or wants to explore more, or wants to know how many people you want to get involved. So that's the third level. Fourth level, do it, report back what was done. That's critical. You always report back what was done. You can act with autonomy and just handle it. So the level of authority is, no matter what project it is and somebody wants to volunteer for something, make sure you don't throw them to the dogs, so to speak. Make sure that you really encourage them and work with them. And if they need instruction or money or approval or a timeline that's like, yeah, we want to do that, but we can't start till April, make sure that who's ever in charge of it knows that. So this is the formal part of giving somebody permission to do something new and getting leaders in your course. So, you know what motivates them, but the outcomes are, you're going to have good results because you agreed whatever it is they wanted to do was going to be something that the course was going to look forward to, the chapter needed or was looking forward to. You're empowering a volunteer. You've now made this human being that's in your course understand that they're not just a singer on the risers, because that's critical. In any functioning chapter, people have to understand that they are more than a voice on the risers. If you're only a voice on the risers, that may be where you start because it's an escape on one night, but there's more to it than that. You'll have a stronger organization because more people are involved. If you have more people involved, then again, that grows. Anybody that gets involved has more insight into the organization and how well you understand how things are done. They also, I see a typo in the next line, they understand how and when to speak up, because in the inherent understanding of the leadership of your chapter, you know how to say, gosh, let me call you tomorrow because there's not time right now, or we can do this. We've got a board meeting coming up. Let me get back to you after the board meeting. Tim Ellis, I see popping around my screen. I don't know if you see that or not. Understand approval for change ideas. People need to know that just because they have an idea doesn't mean someone will act on it immediately. And contagious enthusiasm. The more you get involved, the more excited you are about an organization. That's just a given. And my screen is frozen. Why is my screen? There we go. One cannot lead a life that's truly excellent without feeling that one belongs to something greater and more permanent than oneself. We cannot be the best that we can be without understanding that we're part of a bigger picture. That's a little ethereal. It's like you want everybody to come prepared with their notes and words so you can work on performance. Square one of a course rehearsal. Please know your notes and words unless it's a week we're working on it. But it's so much more than that. It is so much we really want you to belong, and belonging and feeling that you can be part of the change in an organization is what helps you expand on all the people you want to talk to about the organization and how good it is and why they should join and why they should come to a performance, why they should fund it, whatever. All these things about how we treat our leadership and how we treat members, because that's what leadership is. You know, servant leadership is a term that is very odd to me, but it's about me being the person I can be within the organization to make every member shine. That's what leadership's all about, is making sure everybody shines. So I see there's things in the chat. I'm going to stop here and ask Bruce if there's something.
Yeah, I think, Beverly, this is some great content. And I'm wondering if there are folks out there who are doing something like this in their chapters. And, you know, from the extent of ensuring that everybody has some sort of responsibility or some sort of role, as especially when new members get onboarded, do they get assigned to a team? Are you doing anything like that in your chapter? And if you could just pop something in the chat box and we might call on you to expand on that. We do have a question, Beverly, from Tony. Can you please address the concept of working to people's individual strengths as a strategy for planning?
Okay, that's a great question, and it's huge because you need to know what the person's strengths are, first of all. And to do that, it might create some analysis. People's strengths are collective. And if you want to work on their strengths, it's best, number one, to get it down to maybe 1 or 2 items that you want to work to. So you're saying, ask the question again, Bruce, please. How do we work towards this?
Yeah, can you please address the concept of working to people's individual strengths as a strategy for planning for your chapter?
Okay, so if an individual strengths might be bringing in money, funds. Have you ever seen the quadrant that is really good at it and really enthused? These aren't the formal terms, but really good at it and really don't want to be involved. Really enthused, but have no idea what I'm doing, and really enthused, or not enthused at all, and I really don't care about this project. So everybody falls into one of those 4 quadrants. And if it's somebody that's really good at what they do and really enthused, then it's up to the board and the leadership, rather, not the board. It's up to the leadership to understand that you have an extremely valuable person there, and you want to know, number one, you want to know what kind of involvement they want. You want to know their expertise for involvement. You want to know how it fits in your chapter. If it's something you can bring in right away in pieces, if it's something that you can plan out to be part of a growth pattern in a certain area, you're all volunteers, all of us, except the director, usually, is a volunteer. Your director's paid, everybody else is in it because we're crazy, and we want it to get better. Why else would we do this? We want to make sure we share ideas. So talking individually, your board of directors has to have the concept that you're going to open. The board, the president of the board, and I don't want to step on any toes, the president of the board is only president of the board. He's not the be all end all of the chapter. You are not the spokesman for everything that happens. You are the an organizing influence during a board meeting. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other people that maybe don't want the title that are better at 16 things to your 1 or 2. I see a couple people shaking their heads. You know, so the titles we have honored and kind of coddled on the board, we need to break that down. Unless you're a treasurer who wants to handle the money, which I have total respect for, or secretary is really good at taking minutes, which I also have complete and utter respect for, everything else is shared. And I'll get to that in the next set of slides, but you want every member, the more involved your members are, the bigger your party is, the bigger your outreach is, the bigger everything there is. So we'll get to it in the next one, how to open up to make sure that everybody is welcome to give their ideas, because if someone brings an idea to one person they trust, there has to be a way that the board is going to look at that, or the leadership or the VP of whatever it is, will look at that and grow it. So it's the culture of the organization that says your talents, we need your talents. We're not sure how we're going to use them, but we sure want to know what they are. And then we're going to have meetings to figure out where they fit and what you could do. And hey, by the way, what is it you want to do? How long is that list? Does that help? I don't know who asked the question.
Yeah, no, that was a really good explanation, I believe. And Tony, you can chime in there. And
That was
let us
exactly
know.
it. I'm
Yeah.
glad you're going to be getting to that later. It comes from the idea of sticking one person with the responsibility for everything when they may not be good with all aspects of that, and you need other people to support them. That's where I was coming from with it.
Okay, perfect.
And then Beverly, back along the lines of what we were talking about just prior, I was a member of a chapter in California. We had about 85 active members. The president had a very distinct and direct style that worked for that chapter, and that was that everybody served on multiple teams. And so each team had a team captain, but there was always at least 3 people on the team. So you name it, any of all the chapter jobs, right? Everybody was on sometimes multiple teams, but if you were a team captain, you were only the team captain of one. So as a new member came on, they would say, welcome, thank you for joining, and you're assigned to this team, and your captain is Joe, and you're on this team, and that captain's spot might be uniforms, might be risers, might be name tags, might be welcoming, all sorts of things. But he did make sure that every person was engaged and on a team. And I think part of that too, which was part of CACM, was, well, I can't miss a meeting, because if I'm not there, then, my responsibility falls short. So the felt to be not just part of something, but felt needed. That you had an important role in the team. So I don't know if that falls in with where you were covering that content earlier.
It does fall in, and also is that the board has different levels of decision making. But when you walk into an organization, everybody's probably going to know who's on the board, but they need to know, number one, your additional members of the board that don't have titles. Those are the people that are probably going to get spoken with about, hey, I have this idea. Who would I bring it to? What do you think about it? But your board, you look at, I'm going to back up a minute. You look at the VP of music, and you look at the 19 things that are on the list of what they're supposed to be in charge of. And 17 of those things are committees. So it's the uniform committee, it's the music committee, it's the, whatever. I mean, the book is, I don't know, 14 pages long or something, maybe longer than that. So that when you walk into an organization, what you see is, oh, there's a board of directors. And what's really important that they see is, oh, there's a whole lot of things to go on, and there's people in charge of all these different pieces, because nobody that comes into Sing has any idea what it takes to get this done. They have no clue, unless they've been in another course, how many hands it takes to accomplish a show or even a sing out on a Friday night in a park. The core and the monies and the uniforms and the music and permissions and then what you have to pay. I mean, it's huge. And your board is sort of elevated. And so all these extra people that are involved in these committees and these assignments, if we really need your help, is so critical to getting anybody involved. I'm going to take an aside here, and that is that we were told by a fundraising organization when they said, yeah, we'd love to help you. How long's your treasurer been on board? And they said, well, I've been treasurer for 5 years. And she said, you're done next election. Even places that give money understand that the leadership has to turn. The leadership has to be volatile in the fact that you need to spread the wealth in the leadership. So in that very specific instance, what they decided was the guy was the best at doing the books, and he really wanted to keep doing that. So they got somebody else to be the treasurer, because you have to have a treasurer and the secretary and the president. Those are the 3 you have to have. And by the way, secretary and treasurer can be shared. We can get into that later. But what he did was they got a treasurer on the board, and he became their accountant. He became the numbers guy. He was still doing all the work, But it was like, okay, if that's what somebody else needs to see, and then you have yet another person involved that's seeing how the board works. So you can play any number of games or shuffles, whatever you want to call them, to get more people involved, because it's all about, I mean, like I said, it is, to run a course is immense. It takes so many people and so much time. And we don't want the same leaders in the same place all the time, because we want the diversity, we want the growth. We need that to keep the same people in the job. Means your course isn't going to change quite as much as you'd like it to. So that's my 2 cents on that. Next one. Bruce, where'd you go?
Sorry, go ahead.
I said, what's next? It is, we're going to break.
Chat is clear. We can continue.
Okay, so, no, that was the last slide. So when we look at, finding, engaging, and empowering leaders, you find leaders by asking people to do things. You can find them by putting a list up of things that need to be done and see who volunteers. In one case, and this was a woman's course, and I'm just saying that because I don't know if that makes a difference or not. To me, it didn't, but it might to you. They were getting no volunteers for a show prep. They couldn't get people to volunteer to be part of the team to get the show together. And I said, okay, so remember when you have a meet and greet and or you're new in the job and you have a board member and you're learning about the board members, they say, okay, everybody that loves dogs, stand on the left side of the room. Everybody that loves cats, go to the right side of the room. And you do that at different times. So some of the people actually cross over because they like both. You do who likes to organize things, who likes to make sure clothes are cleaned and pressed, who, personally. So you end up using a couple moments of your time to find out all the different things people are interested in. And then you say, okay, now we have a show. And you said you were interested in, you love clean clothes, you love iron clothes. You're going to be on the uniform team. And I know this is a stretch, but it's one method of finding out what people are involved in. Everybody should have a meet and greet. When they walk in the door, somebody should be talking to you. You should have that person as part of your course on your team. If you notice somebody's picking up books at the end of it from visitors, or if you have a piece of music you're just trying out, I don't know why you would, whether you do that or not, but just see the extra person, keep your eyes open, the extra person that's collecting music from his section, get him involved. He likes to do things, be aware of what's going on in your chapter, be aware of the hundreds of things that can happen. And it never hurts to ask somebody, hey, would you like to do this? What is it you're really interested in? What is something that you find that we're not paying enough attention to? A lot of this is in the next presentation, but finding the leaders, engaging the leaders, start small. A whole lot of people aren't going to volunteer. If they do say, yeah, I'd like to be president, and they're brand new at the course, well, maybe you need to sit, maybe as a year you can be a member at large. I see at least one person laughing. So I guess that's happened somewhere. Or if they keep asking you to be president, maybe you should just say yes and figure out how you can keep changing things. Leadership is something that is not on board nights. That's not what leadership is. Leadership is all the members understand that it takes a village, it takes a whole organization. There's people that are in charge of things, and I can be part of that team, and I can influence that team by suggesting things to them. I can get done what I think needs to be done by opening up the conversations, all of that. So, Bruce, Tony.
No, there's nothing going on the chat. I think that the what you're sharing obviously is great. I think if you do quote somebody on the screen, you should be able to pronounce their last name. So I don't know if you can on that one.
I love that thing.
Scott is placed a link in the chat box. Just as a reminder, Leadership Academy today is focused on kind of an overall high level experience from the standpoint of the responsibilities of leadership. Of course, with Beverly's expertise on our call today, we're privileged with that. But in addition, we also have a tremendous amount of resources for secretaries, treasurers, and presidents and chapter leaders specific to your role. The link that Scott has placed in the chat box will get you to a YouTube channel. We highly recommend bookmarking that, and then over the next weeks, taking the time to review those videos. There are very specific assignments related to these roles that have legal requirements, and especially related to our nonprofit status. So there are essential steps that many of you experienced veterans can speak to as well, that are required. And those videos really do a great job covering off on that. So we won't be going into those details in today's Academy. However, I think you'll find that the content that Beverly continues to share is very beneficial. So Beverly, back to you.
Okay, so I'm going to jump ahead a little bit just because the two tie together and you'll probably see it again. And one of the things is as a leader, the culture of your organization is so critical. And I don't know how many of you, hopefully most of you would know what an elevator speech is, but I have been in a group of people that have no clue. Maybe that's an older term that people don't use anymore. An elevator speech is a 1 minute. If you're caught in the elevator and you want somebody to give you a job, you have 1 minute to tell them what it is you're good at and why they'd be the perfect person. Every chapter has a description of who they are and what they're growing to be. I will also say that if you have a course of 20 people, you will get 20 or 40 different explanations on that elevator speech. Who you are and where you're going is something that every member should be aware of. And part of leadership is making sure that you're all on the same bus, okay? I'm watching the clock here. I don't want to say you need to practice the elevator speech, but one of the things you need to do as an organization and as leaders in the organization is make sure that you're all focused in the same direction. If that is perhaps a course that focuses on contest, then somehow when you introduce someone to the course, you want to make sure that that comes up, because they don't want to be blindsided when they walk in and find out that, it's all about the core. It's all about the contest, and it's about the score. And that's what we focus most on. It's getting better and getting the best score. You may be a course that's involved in entertaining the community, be it through shows or freebies or a stroll and sing on a Friday night, that you're just going around town, just singing and just opening up. The people in your course need to understand what your core values are. And I'm not going to get into those, but that elevator speech has something very critical to all the members, so that anybody they talk to, it's not going to be like there's 5 different organizations meeting on Tuesday night. Make sure that everybody is aware of who you are and what your goals are and what you stand for. And hopefully at the end of today, that you're an open organization and that you are continuing to grow and you're continuing to pursue new ideas, because everybody's got them, and you're continuing to explore not just the music quality, but the person that's there. So the person becomes a more well-rounded person. Part of compellingly attractive chapter meetings, and part of your job as a leader, is to make sure that people want to show up for your rehearsal, and they want to rehearse the music, and they want to show up with their notes and words done. If that's part of your culture, so that you can work on performance, that they want to be part of contest. And I have a couple minutes, and I will say every course should be part of your contest. Now, do you guys have just a district contest, or do you have broken up into
Just the district.
Okay, so one contest. So I come from, Carolina's district comes originally from Dixie. We broke off, I think, 13 years ago. Reasons vary depending on who you ask. One of the things I love most about Dixie is that on a contest night, you might see one guy, a bass, singing with 3 different quartets, because they're getting all the new members up on stage and they're exposing everybody to this thing called competition. Except that if you have the philosophy that I'm not going to win, so I don't want to perform, then you kind of lose the glory that's barbershop and it's our conventions. And, oh, by the way, we're having a contest with them. Now, this is a very personal opinion, but I know that contests, because of COVID, because of all kinds of reasons and cost, that contest membership or attendance has been going down. Part of the leadership job that you have in your chapter is to make people aware of the larger world of barbershop, that you have a district, that your district is there to help you. And if you don't know how to get something done, you call your district. That's your first phone call. You might call a friend you have in another chapter, but your district leaders have the names and phone numbers of everybody, or they can get them. Your district is there to get your questions and ideas about, hey, why don't we do this? Or can we do this? Or, you know, can we have a list of coaches that are available? Can we set up a program that says it doesn't cost us hundreds of dollars, it costs us $50 for gas? You know, can we have some training that doesn't include this? Everything that you are as a chapter is supported by your district. And BHS during COVID got a little distant to me. I'm sorry you're recording this. I probably shouldn't say that out loud. You know, the district is the closest thing you all have to the next level of authority or the next level of permission, whatever you need. But really, if you have a president, a treasurer, and a secretary to get the legal stuff done and make sure that everything's okay, what you do is totally up to you. You might as well get the district involved for their ideas. Perhaps somebody else has tried it. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. Perhaps other chapters want to learn from you, so they need to know what you're doing. Make sure your district is well aware of everything that's going on in your chapter, because it's important to them to know what's happening in their district. And through newsletters, whatever you're part of, make sure that that district becomes your larger family. That's critically important to chapters, that they're not out there on their own. I was part of the, what time is it? 50, I've got 2 minutes. I was part of the team that for 6 months called chapters across the country. I don't know if I spoke to any of yours or anybody called your chapters. We spoke to the presidents and directors of the chapters to get their ideas on, you know, what they wanted, what they needed, what BHS was falling behind on. The results were very predictable. And your chapters, if you did that within your chapters, you're going to get the same answers. You know, we want to not feel like we're alone. We want to know what other things we can do. We want to know what talents you guys can share with us to get better. If we're missing a talent in, let's say, fundraising, we don't know how to do fundraising, then call your district, get somebody in to help you with that concept. So all of that, you know, and then again, you've got another opportunity in your chapter to find a leader because somebody noticed you needed to raise money and you don't know how to do it. And that person now is a leader within your chapter in that small part. So we're going to take a break. Are there any quick questions before we do that? The next piece I've got, which is developing successful chapters, is more fun. Make sure you come back.
It's been fun. I would ask that you please check your chat. And I've been asking people who just put a name and didn't say their chapter to at least text me back in the chat what your chapter is so that I know who all's represented here today. Thanks.
Okay, take a water break, take a coffee break. See you back here in
Yeah, we'll be back right at the top of the hour. That'll be great.